सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
A matter of great curiosity, Jignasa, is the question: what does the end of spiritual quest look like? That is a very important question. Spiritual quest we know, or at least we think we know. What the Veda says is that the spiritual quest is something that is geared towards gaining an understanding of who one is, as the Shastra talks about, as the Upanishad talks, as the Bhagavad Gita explains. What is my Swarupa, my nature? This is the spiritual quest. It's a very simple question. Who am I really? Am I this body, mind, sense complex? Am I something more than that? This is the quest. And we see that in this quest there is a doubt. There is a general doubt about the nature of the I. Because one becomes a seeker, because one is discontented and dissatisfied with oneself. Otherwise, why to become a seeker? Or rather, we should say, one becomes a seeker, spiritual seeker, after one has tried everything else to become contented and has failed. Everything has been tried, You have gone to malls to forget about the discontent, check, yes. So from malls to balls, everything has been tried. Nothing is left out. Malls, balls, movies, marriages, plural. And, everything has been tried. And it all helps, but for a little while. From a few minutes to a few years, this desire to be something other than one is shuts up, but then it keeps resurfacing. One is not able to sit still and allow things to unfold, because one is caught in the current of this, feeling that something is not all right. Something has to change, something has to shift, something has to be accomplished, something has to be gained, something has to be lost. This is what the whole thing is. Therefore, coming to this seeking itself is a very auspicious sign. It's a sign that one has decided to really look at the source of the problem, not to suppress it in favor of, something, forgetting, distracting oneself. So this is a very happy occasion that one has decided to seek. And in this seeking, one thinks one knows what one wants. Most of the time that is not the case. And that is because one thinks one wants fame, name, accomplishment, a legacy of leaving something behind. Some kind of a linga. Linga means a sign that I am unique and different and separate from everybody else. This is what one wants. And that is what seems to be very, very difficult to gain. So the spiritual quest, therefore, if it is not understood, that a very simple thing has to be understood. What I seek is who I already am. How do you know? What you seek is who you already are. You know. All you need to do is go to sleep. Not right now, please, but some other time, you know. When you go to sleep, there is a cessation of samsara. Samsara wakes up with you, has coffee and tea with you in the morning, has breakfast with you, lunch with you, dinner with you, and when you sleep, it also sleeps. When you wake up, it wakes up. What does this mean? That if I am subject to samsara, samsara here means the sum total of all kinds of sorry experiences, making one into a sorry, very, very sorry. This is what the thing is. So if samsara, all the things that stand in the way of gaining this contentment in my life, everything that is there between myself, the job, the, whatever else one wants, if this samsara is coming in the way, and if I am subject to samsara, then I should be subject to samsara when? All the time. But it goes to sleep. It doesn't bother me in sleep at all. That's why it's very difficult to wake up in the morning. It's very difficult to wake up in the morning because that's the only way of forgetting that I am not acceptable to myself. The self-discontent centered on the self-condemnation, the self-inacceptability, unacceptability, all these things. There is a sweet end to that in sleep. This is Advaita. No anxiety. Advaita. No fear. Advaita. No regret. Advaita. No kind of, guilt. Advaita. No hurt. Advaita. When? In sleep. Then when the eyes open in the morning, what happens? Oh my God, what day is it? Yeah. First thought. Second thought, oh my God, what do I have to do? Yeah. Third thought, oh, I'm already late. Fourth thought, I'm an idiot. I've always been an idiot. And everyone in my life who called me an idiot is not wrong. They were all correct. Oh, but then I feel so terrible about myself. Why me? This is it. It's not even 5 minutes after waking up. This is how it's a downward spiral. The clouds of doubt, fear, sadness, and discontent gather. Where? Around the head. Yeah, it's a personal rain cloud. At least if it rains and goes away, then the sun comes out. This one never rains. Yeah. It's just there, being carried. Therefore, the asking the right questions is very important. How to become contented? Usse kuch nahi hoga. If you say how to become contented, it's a setup. It's a total setup because what the Upanishad says is that you are not a discontented person. Why? In your own sleep experience, you see. That itself is enough. Going to sleep is a very important thing because it shows you that Whatever you thought was intrinsic to you, it is not. So, self-condemnation, self-judgment, self-criticism, feeling like I don't like myself, feeling like nobody loves me, and I am unacceptable to myself and others, is a universal phenomenon, but it seems to be something that comes and goes. That itself is a segue to understand the nature of the self. And then when we look closely at this issue, everybody wants to be the opposite of a samsari. I want to be an appreciative, contented, non-demanding person. That's what I want to be. Ask anybody. Go to any country. Do you want to be a discontented person? What will they say?
No.
Yeah, I think so. Nobody will say that. Do you want to be a complaining person? No, absolutely not. Do you want to be a sad person? No. So this itself shows that the vision of the Shastra, which says Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, for example, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that all that is here is limitlessly big, and that which is limitlessly big is incapable of being a source of sorrow. That is already, you. That seems very approvable when we read these sentences like this. It's very approvable. There is a feeling, okay, there is an end to this quest. I'm not alone, it is universal. And there is some kind of an end to this quest. This quest is not some kind of a, tangential thing. I'm looking for something that I really want. And this is not my reality. The complaining person, the sad person, the wanting person, the fearful, tearful person are just, some kind of a mistaken identity. The Upanishad looks at this study of the self-knowledge, called self-knowledge, Atmavidya, Brahmavidya, as, correcting this mistake. That is the job. Correcting this mistake, because this mistake is already there. And this mistake is universal. If it's a universal mistake, actually it is very comforting. One good thing is, everyone has avidya. Great, Otherwise it would just be only me. Why only me? Everybody else is a jnani and I am the only ajnani. What did I do wrong? But this nice thing is, everyone is an ajnani. That is our capital. That is our starting point. So no problem. Everybody is an ajnani. Immediately you feel better. Because you think of 7 billion people in the world, everybody was born into ajnana. Fantastic. This is very, very comforting. And so, for a change, one can begin this quest without guilt. Otherwise the guilt itself overshadows the quest. Oh, why I am like this and nothing will help and I am not even going to try. Let me go under the covers again, And so therefore, this Vyabhichara, the contradiction between the sleep and the waking states, and even in the waking states, one is able to smile, one is able to enjoy life, one is able to, despite all the pains and sorrows, have moments of freedom. Enjoy moments of freedom. All you have to do is, see a flower and you say, oh, very nice. How did this flower come? Where is this? How nice. There is one flower, what is that called? Bird of paradise. Have you seen that? It really looks like a bird. It's got orange, purple, yellow, green, all the colors. It looks like a bird. And you see that, and you can, one may be having a sad day or succumbing to the sadness, thinking that this is intrinsic to me. But then, seeing the flower, for a moment it goes away, even in the waking state. And other Ishtavastu darshanat, when you see something that you like, goes away, ice cream, chocolate cake, etc. Immediately, all the 28 teeth come out. Why 28? Because 4 wisdom teeth in this country are always taken out. In India we say 32 teeth. Here we say 28. Yeah. You have to update the examples. So this is something, this is the place to see that there is this little sliver of seeing myself as happy, even without fulfilling a desire, is a very important segue to understanding that the gain of freedom, called moksha, from being a wanting, sad, discontented, unappreciative individual, is not adding something on. What is it? It is basically correcting this understanding in the light of the mirror called Shastra. Shastra becomes a mirror. Guru becomes a mirror, without whose help you don't have a clue. One doesn't have a clue what one even looks like. When you go to the shop to buy a mirror, you stand in front of it, this side, that side. And now, when you are going to the shop to buy a mirror, you are judging the mirror, correct? Is it showing myself slimmer than I am? Then it is a correct mirror. Nobody wants to go home with one of those Disney mirrors, like that, convex, concave, nothing. So it should show myself in the best light. And then finally I take it home and hang it in the bedroom. Or fix it to the wall, whatever. So the next day, I go look at myself. Am I judging the mirror? Or am I looking at myself? I'm looking at myself. So the judging of the mirror is over. See? Similarly, one contemplates on the Shastra even before one studies it. Okay, this is showing me in a good light or not? Then you see that the Shastra is showing you in the best light, even better than a regular mirror. It says you are happy without any reason. It says there is nothing to want. It says Brahmavid apnoti param. The knower of Brahman gains the ultimate. It says Sarvan kaman samashnute Brahmavid. If you know Brahman as the truth of yourself, when you know the truth of yourself, you gain whatever you wanted, all the desires at once. At once. How to gain all the desires at once, Because we are used to having desires one by one, If you want to have the desire, for chakli and ice cream, you can't eat them together. It will be disgusting, What does it mean? Sarvan kaman samashnute. It means that all the desires are simultaneously satisfied without needing to rely on the objects of the desires, because you know that one thing, knowing which everything is, completely free. Everything is as good as known. So this is the Shastra mirror. And what does the Guru do? The Guru is the polish on the mirror, makes the mirror clear to see. Any kind of fog is polished off, any kind of dust is polished off, and the Guru helps you to see the truth of yourself without any kind of error, doubt or vagueness. So therefore, there is a curiosity. This is how I began the talk. What does the end of this spiritual quest look like? Because it's not enough to study the Shastra. People do study for many years and then still feel like they don't know enough. And then, there are still samsara attacks. They are still subject to attacks of samsara. And so the question is, what is it like to finally see the light after the end of the tunnel? The light at the end of the tunnel, what is that going to look like? How is it going to, and when is it going to happen? And so there is a healthy and an important curiosity. What happens at the end of this quest? This we see in the Ramayana also. Valmiki first asks Narada to narrate the Ramayana in 100 verses, and then he begins to write the Ramayana. And so Valmiki asks Narada, tell me the story of a person of perfection. Konvasmin sampratam loke. Like this it starts. Sampratam means right now. Don't tell me books. In the books so many things are said. Somebody lived 500 years ago. Who cares? I want somebody right now that I can see, that I can follow, that I can look up to. Konvasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmajñascha kritajñascha satyavakyo dridavratah. Like this, 16 qualities he wants to know. The one who has mastered dharma, the one who is full of all kinds of wonderful qualities, and like this. So this is again a curiosity, like what happens at the end of this study. So I keep looking at the mirror, I drop all the mistakes about my identity that don't belong. I do what is called antahkarana shuddhi. I clean off the heart, which is generally full of mistakes, raga and dvesha. And then what? Then what do I get as a result? So, how to understand this? This is what the whole thing is. This is where the question is. Arjuna has a similar question in the Bhagavad Gita. Sthita prajñasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthita dhihi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. O Krishna, O Lord, please tell me how to recognize a person who has looked into the mirror and assimilated the truth of oneself. The Shastra mirror, the Guru mirror, one has looked into and understood the truth of oneself. Tell me the story of that kind of a person so that I can, I can people watch like people do in the airport and pick out, there goes Ajnani, there goes Jnani. Look at this person walk, definitely Jnani, that one Ajnani. Arjuna thought this is how it is going to be. Yeah. So, because, we are used to looking at something, external characteristics. And then that becomes the lakshana of what is there. So, because the mind is very categorical. he doesn't understand that this is an inside job. This is not an outside job. It's not that all the jnanis will have a tattoo, a particular tattoo belonging to a secret member of a secret club, because there are very few, or something like that. Or all the jnanis will have a top knot, like the rishis of old, immediately excluding women, And then what? Or all the jnanis will have long beards, not just beard, bada lamba beard. The longer the beard, the more the person is a jnani. These are all, what is that? These are all, these are all notions. These are all notions, and notions are subjective. These are all subjective notions. They have no objective, basis in anything at all. So then Arjuna here asks the question, tell me about how to recognize a jnani. So who is asking this question? A jnani or an ajnani? Ajnani naturally, because the ajnani wants to recognize the jnani, And so the ajnani thinks, Arjuna here thinks, if I had a few, features, wears a top hat or wears a dhoti, so he wants to recognize the jnani who has reached the end of this quest. Why? So that he can see how the jnani walks, talks, speaks, eats, and then he can also listen and carefully and sit by the jnani and follow those mannerisms, and then what? Become a jnani himself. So he asks the question, Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha? How does the person of knowledge, Sthita prajna yasya sthita prajna. Sthita prajna means the one whose knowledge is firmly established, meaning it will not go away. Guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate. Elsewhere it is said, even by the greatest and the hardest and the most fearful of calamities, this kind of a knowledge does not go, and it does not shake you up. A hurricane can shake up the trees and the ocean and everything. The roads, the houses, all of them may fall, along with the winds. But it cannot upset the person of knowledge. It will not shake up the person of knowledge. Even the hurricane like dukkha, fear, calamity, accidental situation, none of them will affect. And so I want to see this person of knowledge. I want to be like this person of knowledge. Please show me sthita prajna, this person who is established in the knowledge. Ka bhasha, how do they speak? Perhaps because they are so knowledgeable and so many ideas are coming, they speak very, 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 very fast. Just like that. No time to even stop, no full stop between the sentences, because they are, God is giving them so many ideas and they are one with those ideas, and so they don't stop speaking. Or perhaps if you are a jnani, you talk very, very slowly. In between two words, you can go have a shower and come back and not miss anything. Perhaps that is the bhasha, that is the way of speaking. Or perhaps, and some spiritual leaders do this. They'll be talking in a normal tone, but when it comes to pravachan, they will just have some other tone. They'll reduce their voice to a whisper or some kind of a, it's not normal, it's not a natural tone. So maybe the jnani is like that. Ka bhasha. Ka bhasha also means, will the jnani speak in English? Or will the jnani speak in Sanskrit? If the jnani speaks in Sanskrit, he or she must be more of a jnani because Sanskrit is close to Bhagavan, Deva Bhasha. So that maybe, and so therefore the English jnani, I don't want to even deal with. You know, I only want a Sanskrit jnani. Could be like that. That is also Bhasha. Or, you know, whatever other bhashas are there, Bengali, you know, Marathi, this, that, so many languages. Which language will the jnani speak? How will the jnani speak? And who is this jnani? Sthita prajna, also qualified by the word samadhistha, the one who is always, you know, in samadhi, means whose mind is resolved. Not in a trance or anything, whose mind is resolved. Then again, sthita dhihi kim prabhasheta. What do they talk? Should they only talk about Atma? A for Atma, B for Brahman, that's all. And if they talk about the weather, they become ajnanis. Why? Because that's not Brahman. Weather is not Brahman. You know? Really? Weather is not Brahman? Well, you know, now I have a doubt whether the weather is Brahman or not, you know. So, like this, Arjuna's question, you know, Kim asita? How does the person sit? You know, jnani should always sit in lotus position. This is again one's own notion. Jnani should sit in a certain way. And if they don't sit in a certain way, if the legs are on the floor, that means what? Ajnani, definitely. No jnanam, you can tell. This is one's notion. And Arjuna is just giving his subjective notions about the definition. And you can see that there are all these notions about how the jnani should walk, talk. What should they talk? Kim prabhasheta, kim asita, and how should they move? Should they run from one place to another? Or should they have a steady, slow, measured walk? Are they jnanis or models on a runway? You know, this is a very interesting question in the Bhagavad Gita. And it is, and that's why we all love Arjuna, because, you know, he asks all the questions that we always wanted to ask but were too scared to ask. He has no pride, no shame, and he's just like a child. He's able to ask all these questions. And so this is what he says. Tell me about the jnani. I want to know. And you know, there are two ways of answering the question. Any question. You can answer the question directly, and then that would have been very difficult for Lord Krishna to answer this kind of a question directly. How does the jnani walk? How does the jnani talk? And to this you can add, how does the jnani eat? What does the jnani eat? You know? Very difficult. And because these kinds of questions obviously don't make any sense. Because if it's a Punjabi jnani, you know, you polish off 5-6 jalebis with a big glass of milk first thing in the morning. Yeah. If it's a South Indian jnani, they will pack in a few idlis. Yeah. And they will say, I prefer this, you know. And if you give the South Indian jnani jalebi and milk, they will not know what to do with it. Yeah. So then that doesn't mean they are jnanis or ajnanis. You can't, you know, that they are not jnanis. But Arjuna was fixated on external characteristics so that he could understand and he could identify them and go after them. That was his idea. I want something to identify clearly. And without saying as much, Lord Krishna says very beautifully that these external circumstances that you are looking for to identify the jnani, to objectify the jnani are useless, because you cannot objectify the Atma, and therefore the person who is carrying the knowledge of the Atma also cannot be objectified through, these kinds of criteria that you are putting forth. You are putting forth very, strange criteria. Based on dress, you can say, okay, is this person a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, but not anything else. And so he does not take, Lord Krishna does not answer the question directly. He answers the question indirectly. Because he answers the spirit of the Arjuna's question. And the spirit of Arjuna's question is very, very simple. The spirit of Arjuna's question is, how do I recognize a jnani so that I can be one? That's the idea. What are the lakshanas of a jnani? And here not shallow lakshanas like the description of what they do and what they don't do. How do I recognize a jnani, the one who has completed this quest, and so that I can be inspired by such a person and I can be like that person? How do I do this? And so his answer is marvelous. The answer is Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. Sarvan kaman, sarvan manogatan kaman yada prajahati. When prajahati, prakarshena jahati, when the person totally gives up, what? All desires. Saibaba. Yeah. This is a lot to ask. Even one desire to give up takes a long time. So here, the person has given up all desires when? Even as they occur in the mind. And so many thoughts come in the mind. Why am I sitting here? I should be in a movie theater instead, Because this new movie has been released, it is coming to town, and why am I sitting here? This is not the age for this kind of spirit to listen to all these kinds of talks. This is my age to go to movies and enjoy. What am I doing over here? The thought has come, correct? But then, it is given up right there and then. In other words, a thought is a fancy. It's a fancy. Panchadashikara in the Swamini in the Panchadashi, 4th chapter, says that this, he calls this fancy in Sanskrit as Manorajya, the kingdom of the mind. It's a mental kingdom where I can have some fantasies, where I can have some fancies. Oh, right about now a movie sounds good. Right about now I'd like this, I'd like that. Actually in my life I would like this. How do I gain this? These are all fancies. And then Svatmavidyanandji in the same, text says, the contender asks, what's wrong with fancy? Who is it harming? Desires are difficult. Yes, I understand. Because once there are certain desires, there is a pressure to fulfill them and etc., etc. You're absolutely correct. But don't take away my ability to have fancies. This is my secret world that nobody knows about. And here is where I have a little bit of enjoyment. Who is it harming? And if in my secret world I go to some wonderful Caribbean island and stay there, what is it to you? In my secret world of the mind, if I just go on a cruise, it's not that I'm asking you for money to go on this cruise, I'm doing it on my own. Again, in my secret world, if I just have a few fantasies, why do you have to take that away from me? And Swami Vidyanandji, who is the author of a very important work, he says, because these manorajyas, this mental kingdom of fancies, is the breeding ground, the petri dish of desires. So breeding, just like in the lab, they have something called a petri dish, and in that they put something and see how long it will take to reproduce, some bacteria and all that. So the fancy, one fancy comes and you think, okay, it has gone, but when you water that fancy and nurture the fancy, then what happens? It sticks. It sticks to the mind. First, you are playing with the fancy. And then after that, what happens? The fancy is playing with you like a dog with a chew toy. You are the chew toy, yeah. It chews you up and throws you out, spits you out. In other words, the fancy has grown strong enough to hijack you, to gag you, to bind you, and to take you away from the road of dharma. This is why the manorajya is first and foremost, managed. This is what the whole thing is. In the beginning, you are playing with the fancy. You feel I am the Raja. The fancy is something, I am the master. But the fancy soon grows and kidnaps, kidnaps you, hijacks you. This is the problem, and this is why it has to be taken care of. It's like the story of the camel and Muhammad. Yeah, everybody knows that. Yeah. Muhammad and camel, one tent, going on a safari, where? In the desert. Night falls, Muhammad pitches the tent, ties the camel outside, goes inside to sleep. Suddenly one wet nose is pressed against him. What? Get that nose out of here, please, sir. Camel talks. Yeah, I'm very, very cold. Can I just keep my nose in the tent? Okay. 1 hour later, it wakes him up again. Please, can I keep my paws in just the front paws, just the back paws, just the tail, just the hump. And in the morning, camel inside the tent, Muhammad shivering, dying outside the tent. This is exactly what fancies are like. They take over the mind, they gag and bind the ahankara. Prasabham haranti manaha. Prasabham means with force. They just take over. And then, what happens is that the person is gone. The entire person is gone. Pranashyati. The whole person is destroyed. When even at the level of fancy it cannot be stopped, then the fancy turns into a baby desire. The baby desire, becomes an adult desire. And the adult desire becomes a gunda. What is a gunda? A ruffian, okay? Beats dharma, beats karma yoga, beats bhakti, beats everything up. Ties all of them in one corner and then rides roughshod over one's own values that one had cultivated. This is what the whole thing is. And so therefore, the first lakshana of the jnani is Prajahati yada kaman sarvan kaman. Not just one or two. All the kamas, all the desires are given up when? Even as they arise in the mind. In the form of fancies. So at the level of fancy, they are taken care of. And if they are taken care of at the level of fancy, then they do not harm the person. There is no disappointment, there is no struggle. So that is the first criterion. And the second one is what? Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. Tushtaha, contented. Atmani, in oneself. Atmana, by oneself, without needing an external source of entertainment. Try sitting for 5 minutes without doing anything. There is a restlessness. Oh, what am I waiting for? Why is this not happening? There is frustration, there is fear, there is anger, there's all kinds of emotions come out in a big way. But the jnani is entertained without needing. What is that? Hell phone. Yeah. Which is the windows of the universe, and computer, and what is that other one? iPad, all these things. So if somebody has an iPad, they are not a jnani, that's not correct. Then what's the difference between a person having an iPad and a jnani having an iPad? Well, if the person's iPad is taken away, the person says, I'm mad, but the jnani is not mad if the iPad is taken away. Everything is just a karana, a sadhana for the jnani. Sadhana means a means of being. That's all. It is not, a jnani is not dependent on a person, place, thing, or an action in order to be happy. Because the jnani has understood that the main source of happiness is what? Myself alone. And there is no such thing called happy place unless one is talking of some kind of a psychological, term to denote disconnection. This is usually said, I have gone to my happy place, meaning a place where I don't have to deal with the pain which I confront. And then what? Then there is no such thing called happy hour. Yeah. But there is such a thing called happy hour. It's the most unhappy hour. All unhappy people go. There's no time called happy hour. All unhappy people go there. Only happy person is the person who owns the place. That's all. There is no happy place. There is no happy time called happy hour. Yeah. And then what? There is no happy place. And there is no thing called happy object. Because if something is happy, makes you happy, it should make you happy all the time. No, you don't understand. Ice cream makes me happy all the time. Okay. Well, when you have the stomach flu and somebody gives you a big, bowl of ice cream, is that going to make you happy? Certainly not. You'll say, get that thing out of here, I don't want it. Okay, no stomach flu. But then you had some bad news. Some bad news came. Somebody you know, love, is sick, is in the hospital, in the ICU. But then also, you cannot eat the ice cream, you're concerned, you're worried. Bad news again. So if ice cream is an happy object, it should make you happy all the time. It doesn't. It cannot. Okay, one ice cream will make you happy, second one will make you less happy, third one will make you even less happy, and the fourth one will make you unhappy. Fifth one will send you to the bathroom for 3 days. That's all. So therefore, there is no such object called happiness. There is no person called, such a person is going to make me happy. That is all what people think before the marriage. And this person is going to make me happy. Anybody who is married knows that that is not true. Yeah. That is one of the reasons everybody should get married. Because this pervasive delusion that one person is going to make me happy is not going to, is gone. Children, again, people have children because they think children are going to make me happy. And then one day they become teenagers. What more can we say? You know? Teenagers means what? You say sit, they say I will stand. You say okay stand, they say I will sit down. Yeah. You say come, they will say I'll go. You say okay go, no, I won't go. This is what it is. And so therefore, there is no person that is the source of happiness. There is no place that is the source of happiness. There is no thing that is the source of happiness. There is no action that is the source of happiness all the time. And so therefore what? So the happiness is not centered anywhere except on you. Centered on you. But then why do I need ice cream to make me happy? You don't. No, I do. Well, if you smile at the sight of ice cream, it's just bringing out the pleased I in you. That's all it is. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. This one, Maitreyi, the celebrated sage in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is told by her husband, another celebrated sage, Yajnavalkya. Nava are patyuhu kamaya patim priyam bhavati. Atmanastu kamaya patim priyam bhavati. Nava are